ladies.
Hello, you guys, and welcome to the Women's Cave. Thanks for letting me have it.
Yeah, no, it's a complete chaos over here. We've been gone for like a week. We get home and it's like, oh my word, what happened to the studio?
I think because it's like studio/office.
Yeah, pretty much.
That I think our assistant was just like, in the office, doing it all away, whatever.
And I'm a little mad about the throwing it all away. I'm missing a few things. I mean, it looks better, but I'm missing a few things. Oh my goodness. So many things.
OMG.
And I will know that. Like my lipstick. I'm not letting that go yet. I'm missing my lipstick. I'm wearing some weird red color today. What is this? Anyway, moving on.
I got all about you.
Yeah, no, I did. I got the whole introduction, didn't I? Whew. I'm getting older.
Wow. Well, all right. We're not even going to address that. It's just whatever. The cave is a mess. We're a mess. So we're just going to talk about our books, right? So we did all these anti-thought books, right, that everyone can check out online.
Oh, no, first, we have anti-thought before we that.
Excuse me.
Was I okay, go ahead.
No.
That's her responsibility. Go for it. Book title.
So Anti-Thought Divorce Was Bad is available on Amazon and also on audiobook. Also, Anti-Thought Being Grown Up Was Easy is going to soon be on Audible. And I know I'm supposed to tell you guys on my books. I know I am. But I'm telling you, really wait for the audiobook. It's like I was like, did I write these words? Are you sure they're my words? I don't know because they sound so amazing coming out of Joe's mouth.
That's very
true. Yeah. So you can find out all the books and all we did, especially like the 25 hottest in the literary magazine, all the things that we do on www.andwethought.com.
Mentioning also the literary magazine, the third one is coming out this month. Please buy it. That would be nice.
Check it out. It's going to be some really great things.
Nice change of
Right. So I'm not done with introducing. I mean, normally we have this long answer. Not today. It's not enough talking.
Jet lag is a thing.
Well,
thank you, LA, for being so awesome to us.
I know.
All right.
We thank you for that. But you guys are here to hear about us. You're here to hear from our wonderful guest with the blue room.
Wonderful guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, so my name is Rachel Kahan, and I am an executive editor at William Morrow, and I'm sort of here to talk about the book publishing life. I have worked in book publishing my entire adult life. Like, it was the first job I had when I came out of college, and it's been a lot of years since then, like 23 years since then, and I'm still doing this. So I'm a lifer, and basically what I do is I edit best-selling fiction and nonfiction, the kind of stuff that, like, if you're at Barnes and Noble or you're at the airport or you're scrolling through on Amazon, like, you have probably seen some of the books that I edited. And they include everything from, like, just the kind of commercial fiction that you read with your readers group to nonfiction. Like, I was the editor for Hidden Figures by Margot Lee Shetterly that became the movie with Taraji P. Henson and Janelle Monáe. So I do both fiction and nonfiction, but at the moment I'm specializing maybe a little bit more in fiction. And basically it's the job that I think I was born to have, because I was like a hardcore book nerd from as long as I can remember. Like, I learned to read. I went to one of these preschools where they drilled phonics into us. I learned to read really early. And my whole life was always happiest when I was reading a book or talking about books. And I got a job that allowed me to earn a living doing that. So it's been great. And now I work with authors, and basically I describe my job as being like a little bit like being a midwife, and a little bit like being a coach, and a little bit like being kind of a talent agent or a lawyer, because I go out and I find the authors and I do the deals for HarperCollins is the big publisher that I work for. So I sign the authors up and then I work with them to improve their books, to publish their books, to build their careers. And I have authors who I've been working with for 20 years, like, who they stay with me. I have long-lasting relationships, and I have authors from all around the world. I have authors who I've published in translation, and it's just a great job. It's really all about personal connections and also about, like, just loving books. It's just for people who are book nerds and bookworms, that's like what we do.
Okay, so first of all, Normally when
She picked a subject to talk about, so we got one question and we have to talk about her subject.
Sure.
Jade, I'm totally, you can ask. I mean, I can sort of go on, but why don't you ask your question? Because then that will probably get me going on the subject.
So my question is, because most times when you say an editor to an author, they like cringe, like, oh, the people that make me rewrite things. But it seems like you have a different approach to your editing. How do you think that developed over the years?
So,
Yeah,
I think that, I think the thing about being an editor is you have to be in line right away with the author's vision for their book. Because at the end of the day, it's their book. It's not your book. Like, you are there to help them develop the book. I had this teacher once when I did my graduate work in publishing who said it has to be like the quintessence of the book. Like, you have to maximize all the potential of that book and make it the best book possible. So sometimes you're right. Like, sometimes it means you got to rewrite that because it like doesn't work. But more often it's things like, the ending could be better. This character is sort of unlikable. Can we make her more likable? I don't believe that would happen. I don't think this dialogue quite works. And it's working with them to shape something, sort of like being the director of a movie rather than being like the teacher who's like, no, like you wrote that wrong. Your grammar's bad. I'm not focused on the grammar. I'm focused on the storytelling more than anything. I mean, like, I am good with grammar because like I went to college in English and stuff, but it's really all about helping the author to tell the best story possible. And of course, it's a money generating business. So it's also about like, this has to be a story that we think people will pay money for.
Okay. So I have other questions, but we're going to go with questions. Since you've worked in publishing for so long, you said that you could possibly demystify a bit of that publishing thing, because we all think it's magic. We send out a piece of paper, and then one day they send us the paper back, and then another day, they accept it, and then eventually a couple of years down the road, we see a check.
Yeah, it's funny. I think book publishing is one of those things that seems like it seems really opaque from the outside. Like, you're just like, how did this book even get in this bookstore? I don't understand, because we're not, as an industry, good at explaining what we do, I think, which is why I'm very happy to talk to you. Basically, the way it works, I should preface this by saying there's lots of different kinds of publishing. So the books that you see that are self-published on Amazon came about one way. The books that university presses and smaller presses do, they were published another way. What I do is I work for what are called like the big 5 publishers, and they generate most of what you see in bookstores today. And really, the way the books come to me as an editor is we work with literary agents. And the literary agents, it's sort of like the same way as if you were an athlete or a movie star or a model, like you have a literary agent and that person represents you. And I have relationships with literary agents all around the world, and they know what I do. And so when they have a client who they think writes the kind of book that I would like to publish, they call me and say, hey, I have this great novel. It's about blah, blah, blah. And I'll say, oh, that sounds really good. Send it to me. And they send it to me. And then I read it and I decide if it's something I want. And if it's something I want, I make them an offer. Sometimes my fellow colleagues elsewhere in the industry will be making them offers too. So like there's a level of competition, because there are other people who do what I do, and that like they may want that book for themselves because they think that they're going to make a lot of money off it too. But then when I get the book, I do the deal, and that's where the contract comes in, and the agent negotiates the contract. And we don't do any business really with authors who don't have agents. And that's sort of for everyone's protection. Like, if you're an author, you get an agent because you would never, even if you could get your foot in the door, which doesn't really happen, you would never want to do business with a major corporation if you didn't have someone representing you. Like, you need that person to represent your interests, because they know all the ins and outs of the business, and they protect you. They act as your intermediary, that kind of thing. So I do the deal, and then I get the book. And usually if it's fiction, like I have a whole book. If it's nonfiction, I might have bought the book based on a proposal, which is, anywhere from like 20 to 50 pages. Usually it says this is what the book's going to be about. And in that case, I might buy the book and then wait a year or so for the author to write it. In some cases, like I have a book right now that I signed up in 2015 and on a proposal, that author is still writing it. So, sometimes with the nonfiction, it takes a little longer, but then I start to edit it, and I talk a lot with the author. And normally, even before I buy a book, I talk with the author to say, this is what I love about your book. This is what I think we can do for your book. Here's my vision for the book. And I really want the author to know what I'm thinking, because like I said, it's their work and it's their vision. And I have definitely had conversations where my vision did not line up with their vision. And so I didn't buy the book. Either they didn't want me to buy the book, or I said, no, I don't think this is a good relationship. I don't think this would work.
Mm-hmm.
You have to like, you as an editor are in service to that author's vision. It's not about you at the end of the day. So so I work with the author, and I go through, and I still take like a pencil to the page, and I jot down notes and do all of that stuff, and then I send it off to the author and say, here's what I think we should do with the book. And most of the time the author, just goes and does it. Sometimes they'll come back to me and say, yeah, I don't know about that. Maybe I could do this instead. And we kind of knock around ideas until we come up with something. And then I go through the whole, once the book is finished, then I'm the person in-house who oversees the whole publication of the book. So that's, working with our art director to come up with a good jacket, working with our designer to make the book's interior look good, and working with the copy editors and the production editors to actually like produce what you wind up holding in your hands or downloading onto your Kindle. And then I also am sort of working with marketing and publicity as they set up the marketing and publicity campaigns. So in that sense, I'm kind of in like the executive seat, overseeing all the different things that people are doing and being the point of contact for the author. And then the book comes out and it sells a lot of copies, and I'm the person who goes back to the author and says, hey, your book sold 5,000 copies in the first week. This is amazing. What are you going to do next? And that's what I do. So it's one of the things I like about my job is there's a lot of different stuff. Like I am doing the words on the page, but I'm also doing the business side of it with the negotiations and that kind of thing. And then I'm also getting to like oversee a lot of the different creative things that are going on and give input for those.
So what do you like better? I'm sorry, Jay probably has a really good question. I just had to jump in.
That's a great question. I really love, the thing that I like best is working directly with the author, because like it goes back to my love of talking about books, that like I can just like, I love talking about the books with the author. So that kind of bond that I have with the author is why I'm still doing what I'm doing. Like I'm an executive editor, so I'm at a high level in my department, but I never wanted to be a publisher, because the management job is where you're doing all the corporate stuff and you don't have the time to do the personal interactions, and you're not like getting down and dirty in the writing with the authors. And that's just what I really like. So that's my favorite part. I mean, I like all parts of the jobs except maybe like sitting in meetings. I don't know many people who like.
I don't know that she hates sitting in meetings. She hates it.
I don't know anyone who's like, yeah, I just wish I had more meetings in my life.
I like meetings. It's cool. Like let's hear the ideas. I like to take notes on people's thoughts. Like I love it. But I'm weird like that.
Yeah,
I'm strange.
You're probably more patient. I think you're probably more patient than I am. Like I just, after a while, I'm like, why are you people still talking? I have work to do.
That's a little. So for me in the meetings, and I'm just gonna clear this up. Before I became an author, I was a sign language interpreter and have always wanted to be a sign language interpreter. So I took a lot of time, like even growing up, listening to people and trying to figure out what they meant.
Yeah.
That like feed into my career that I was choosing for myself. So I think I'm just used to like, oh, but this is what they mean. So I get that. Yeah, okay, that's important.
You're used to paying attention and being engaged. My mother actually was a sign language interpreter. That's
I love it so much.
So she was my mom was a special ed teacher when I was born. And then when, like the year after I was born, she didn't go back in the classroom, but she freelanced at Gallaudet University as an interpreter.
Okay. Oh my goodness, I love it.
Okay, do you know any sign language?
I love it.
I don't. I can sort of hand spell the alphabet still, but I never really learned ASL as a language. It was just.
Oh, you know, somebody be like, all right, everyone, let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Do you want to?
So we don't want to pressure you. We go silent. Like it's really. Yes, A, B, C, and D, and E, F. Yes. G. Oh, I know. I love it. Okay.
I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Do you want us to do the end of that?
Yes.
Now I know my ABCs. Next time, won't you sing with me?
Okay, sorry, y'all.
I love it. Sorry.
The written language, the spoken language, and the sign language.
I actually have a whole poem that I wrote from my ASL poetry, which is anyway.
And she got Poet of the Year off of it.
Yeah, I did.
Is that right?
It was kind of funny because I was like, "Where did it come from?" And I was like, "Oh, growing up," but also it came from my one of them, my
ASL poem.
Did you?
Yeah, she asked me to do an ASL poem, and it was that.
Grow up in an ASL house? Is that how did you learn ASL?
I learned ASL because when I was 8 years old, I saw it, and I came home and I told my parents, "This is what I'm doing with the rest of my life."
So I think by 8, both my parents required us to, like 9 was like, they were like, you need to know what you want to do by 9. So
That's
she knew by 8. I knew by 7, and they changed at 10.
Yeah, it's just simply like I saw it, I loved it. I was like, "This is what I'm doing," and my parents were totally 110% behind me. And like, I live in Annapolis, Maryland, and they drove me to DC and drove me all around to these deaf meetups, these ASL signing meetups, and they drove me all around so I could learn my sign language.
Oh, so you must have been to Gallaudet plenty of times.
Oh yeah, I love Gallaudet. Like I like them. I'm still in Annapolis, so I get to go all the time. I just plays and graduations, and I'm there.
That's awesome.
She's retired now, though.
Yeah.
We've talked enough. Your turn.
Yeah. So my question.
Tangent. Back to publishing. All right. Next, let's see. What's the next question about publishing?
So I think my question was going to be: it seems like you have a very good relationship with your authors, and I just wanted to see if that is really like the foundation of you understanding what they write, because you know them personally.
So, in a long-term relationship, yes, you get a sense of that. I know them professionally. Like a few of my authors have become like good personal friends where like I've had a meal at their house and met their, spouses and kids, but it is more of a professional relationship. So you actually start off, and when you first get that manuscript on submission from an agent, you have no idea who that person is. Like you only know them through their writing. And then as you work with them, you come to know them professionally in the same way that like you come to know anyone you work with professionally. And sometimes the relationship remains very professional. Sometimes, like, I'm going to be real honest here, sometimes you discover that you don't actually like that person as a person. Like that has definitely, like, I have definitely worked with authors who I thought were very talented authors, or authors who were big bestsellers who I actively did not like them as people. Fortunately, now that I kind of am senior enough in the job, I don't buy, I've kind of weeded those people out of my professional life. But certainly when I was younger, I mean, I had to work with male authors who sexually harassed me. I had to work with authors who screamed at me. There are definitely, it's not always like this great love affair between you and your intellect and that person's intellect. Sometimes it's really not, but that's just like any job, right? I mean, we've all had to work with people who we just
no. Yeah, just no.
Yeah, I've worked with people who were good writers, earned a lot of money, but they were trash human beings, and that's just the case.
Yeah.
So, I can understand. We need a lot of them now.
We need a lot of people in this
we do. And there's also, it is sort of one of the things when you've been doing this for a long time, I also know just from the world that I inhabit and the way people talk in the world that I inhabit, I know which authors are trash. Like there are people whose writing I no longer enjoy because I know that they're creepy, that they scream at their assistants, that they mistreat their spouses and children, but then there are also authors who are like really genuinely wonderful people who I'm like, wow, I have a lot of time for that person. It's like everybody should be reading this person's book because they're a genuinely good person. So
I get that. I love how your face changes for that. You're like, they're genuinely good. And I was like, oh, wait, she's featuring one right now because she's so shiny.
It's true. Like you really, you get like, there are people, I still like fangirl like crazy when I meet certain authors.
Absolutely.
Or, we have a celebrity division that I don't work for it. I don't really do books by celebrities because life is too short. But
I'm sorry, that's not fun.
But I have like colleagues who do them, and every now and then, like some celebrity will be in our office, and I'll be like, I actually got in the elevator last year with RuPaul, and I was like gazing up at him, and he's very tall, and he was dressed in this beautiful suit, and he's like very tall, very dapper, shaved head, and I'm just like, oh, RuPaul, I made such a fool. I'm such a fool of myself, y'all, such a fool of myself. But so you do get to like meet cool people sometimes.
Yeah.
And cool writers whose like work I've loved for years. It's great, like as a book person, like I love being able to say to them, I read this book and it totally changed my thinking about this, or I learned so much. So that's one of the nice things about it too.
I just want to let you know, you're not the only one. We have totally fangirled out over like
fangirl out over the weirdest author.
If you were like, really?
Give me an example.
Okay, so Alexander C. Kane, like I fangirled out over Alexander C. Kane. I was crying.
I've heard of her, but no, I've never read her books.
Alexander. Okay, so he's just like the superhero. It's hilarious. Like the superheroes were like a corporation, and he like it's like basically The Office for superheroes. Anyway, it was one of the funniest books I have ever listened to on Audible. Like I looked crazy in stores as I was crying with laughter.
Had that,
and he was like, yeah, I'll come be interviewed on your show. And we were like, stop it, for real.
I'm gonna have to look up his stuff because, like, I know that name, but I don't think I've actually read the book. Now I'm gonna have to.
Oh, I think he's on his way up.
Yeah, so
like, if he's not at your level yet, but he will be.
But he's awesome. He's awesome. He wrote very good books, and then Nelson Shalott. He wrote.
You wouldn't know Nelson Shalott at all because he's self-published, but he wrote this ridiculous book about Dr. Anarchy and how he became the something.
Of Rhode Island.
Ruler of Rhode Island.
Wow.
And okay, so you read the title and go,
what?
Huh? And then you listen. I was on a plane that had immense turbulence, and I was still laughing.
How do you guys find these books? Are you mostly listening on Audible, or are you like Amazon?
So
8 books a week.
No, I
read a month.
I read between like 8 and 14 a week books. So yeah, I read a lot, and I listen to Audible because you can't always read when you have work to do.
Yeah.
So listen to Audible too.
If you have a long commute, like I know a lot of people who are like, yeah, I go through 5 books a week. And like, how do you do that? And they're like, I commute an hour each way.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when she's not working, she's reading.
Yeah.
Literally,
I think that sounds like a good life.
I'm like, oh,
right?
right? I'm like,
you can say that.
like I'm eating breakfast, reading. And then I'll have and I'll do something else, and I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm taking my dad to the doctor, reading. And so it's like that's just my life. If I'm not working, I'm reading.
I always have reading material with me. Like I always have either a book or a magazine or both in my purse, and I have a book on my phone so that like in case I get caught without my other books, like I'm never gonna be bored. I'll like read in line at the drugstore.
Yep, I was like that weird kid that my parents had to tell me to take books out. After I started really reading, I would have like 5 books in my purse at all times, and I would just be reading all of them at the same time. Like I'd be like switching in and out, and they're like, "Could you pick 2? Because now we would think you're weird with these 5, please."
Yeah.
2.
I just want you to understand how much of a book lover she is. We would go to parties. She used to go to parties like Philly and St. Louis and all over the place. And instead of dancing, she would just bring a flashlight. And she would read the entire party.
That sounds like, that kind of sounds like me, especially like me in high school. And also, I would sometimes go, I dated a guy once who really liked baseball, and I just don't. And so I would just take a book, and we'd be at like a Yankees game, and I'd be sitting there very happy with my book. We didn't
because it was our preferred thing. It's a preferred thing. Anyway, we've been here on it
a really long time, and you have stuff to do, and we promised it would be something.
Yeah, so
ask me more questions. So I don't. I feel like you're getting your time's worth.
Oh, we are. We already have. Are you serious? I got to talk about sign language and books. Like my life is made. Like this is a good Friday.
We're good.
We're good.
The only thing that we have left is like maybe a good glass of scotch, and that's all of Friday.
Yeah, that's how we would call it.
I got my tea.
Oh yeah.
We used to have tea.
So, what are like some 2 things of advice that you would give people, authors, are just starting out, or
that really their goal? Because we meet a lot of them. Because we're not exactly at your level.
We're indie published.
We're indie
self-published. So
we're not there yet. But we meet a lot of people who would like to be in the Big 5.
Yep,
So,
I hear you.
What would you?
It would. I'm trying to think if I can get it down to 2. Basically, it would be read really deeply. So, be able to talk about your book in the marketplace. Because every now and then I do a lot of writers' conferences, and people will come up to me and talk about I'm going to write a book about this. And I'll say, okay, what books that have been successful is your book like? And they'll be like, oh, I don't really read that many books. And it's like, you cannot do this. It happens a lot. It's like a lot of people think that they can write a book, but they don't actually read a lot, know a lot about the world of books. So, if you haven't already, educate yourself very deeply about the kind of books, if you're going to write, an urban fantasy novel, you need to read all the other ones so that you can then say, my book is like X. My book is better than X. My book does something that no one else has done because it does X. And really be able to talk knowledgeably about how to position your book in the marketplace. So you need to have that knowledge. And then also I always tell people, then once you've done that, you also need to really understand the process of how books are published. And that's, like I said at the beginning, it can be really mysterious. It's not necessarily a public-facing business. So, but there's a lot of writers' conferences. There's a lot of great resources online. You don't have to go to the library if you have an internet connection. I send people to the Jane Friedman blog because I think that she has all the advice that I would give to people, Jane Friedman. And then learn how can I get, if my goal is to be published by a big 5 publisher and see my book in Barnes and Noble, how do books get there, and like what are the steps that I need to take? Because it's sort of like any other job. Like you wouldn't try and apply for a job like your dream job without sort of knowing what all the steps are and like what the experience is that you need to have. And I think that, like I said, publishing is not great at talking about itself. So I think people, sort of like you said, Winona, where it's like, people just think that like you send something out and then the contract comes back in an envelope and voila, it's done. And it's just not. That is like not how it works. So and honestly, I also tell people like, think about what kind of publishing you want, because the truth is like I am very pro self-publishing and indie publishing. If your goal is that you want to get your work out to people as quickly and efficiently as possible according to your own vision, you can do that. Like you can do that very easily with Amazon Kindle, or like there's a lot of different platforms out there. It's just that's a very different kind of publishing experience. And some people also like think, there's going to be millions of people who are willing to like read my book about or hear my wisdom about. It's like, that is just not always true. But maybe if maybe you can get a few thousand sales on Amazon. Like there's a whole spectrum of what's successful. And it's sort of like, I say to people, like, there's people who play in the NBA, and then there's people who like play on their college team, and there's people who play on their high school team, and there's people who play at the local, playground and pickup games, and they're all players. Like they all play basketball. There's just the number of people who like really do it at the highest level and can monetize it is small. So figure out like, if all you really want to do is get a good pickup game in a few times a week, like you can do that. It's just, I think a lot of people feel like it's a much easier thing than it is to get published by a big 5 publisher. It's just not.
It's just not true.
I'm so sorry.
Fall allergies.
Oh yeah, there.
Yeah, I got it here too.
I was gonna say like I figured this out about like 5 years after I got published.
Mm-hmm.
I got published for the first time when I was 10, so I assumed that when I was 11, I'd be signing with
Yeah.
Not true.
No.
Many years later, I still signed with Random
You can be a child star and like be on TV when you're 10, and you don't like go on to fame and fortune in Hollywood, but you're still like, you still did that. Like that's still a very valid, like you are a published writer. That's a valid thing. And I always tell people too that, if writing is really what feeds your soul and makes you happy and helps you, have a full and engaged and authentic life, then just write. Like not everyone has to be a bestseller. Like you have to really be true to yourself and write. So sometimes also I find that like when I talk to people at writers conferences, they'll be like, oh, well, if I can't get a big publisher, then it's just not worth doing. I'm not going to do it. It's like, okay, but that sort of tells me something about what your real commitment is. Like if you just see it as something that like you're going to do because you want money and fame, like you can do that, but you're probably not that good at it because you're not coming to it from a genuine place of inspiration and creativity.
Exactly.
It was that.
Yeah,
those are great ending words. I like it. I love those ending words right there.
Okay.
I love it very much. So you can like have lunch and have, an enjoyable fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the few minutes you have left of you time.
Yeah.
So, Jade, I wouldn't normally go, how do people contact you? But I don't think you want that to happen.
You don't want to. Thank you so much.
What's the next writer conference that you will be attending?
The next, I don't have one. I don't have one scheduled. The last one I was at was in June, the Historical Novel Society conference, which was it was actually like near you, Jade. It was in National Harbor. Maryland.
Right.
Which
Yeah, I was going to do that. Wait, did you say in June? Yeah, I was going to do that.
I know, right? We could have met. Yeah. It's so because I have little kids, I used to do several a year. Because I have little kids, I do them a lot less. But like you can also see, I've done there's if you Google my name, there's video of me talking about various things. I was on the Writerly podcast recently. So I do, like, I'm out there talking, and if you have written the great American novel and gotten a literary agent, like that literary agent probably knows where to find me.
Exactly. Absolutely. So thank you, Rachel, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. You guys can always check out what your ladies are doing at www.andwethought.com. Well, Nona has something to say, but I might just cut her off today. I don't know. I'm in that kind of mood. Okay, never mind. I'm giving. What's up?
You can also watch Just Right Life
on Facebook.
On Facebook. So you can reality TV show about authors.
No, that's the thing.
Not series.
Gotcha.
About authors. When the authors are us. So
yeah.
If you don't want any more silliness in your life, you might not want to check that out. Just saying.
This is all silliness about writers. I said you could always use silliness about writers because I get the not silly part. So
always enough silliness to go around, and writers need to be less serious. In my opinion, humble opinion. But anyway, you guys remember, wisdom is all around you.
If you're open to finding it and accepting it, and I got that right.
Keep up, you guys. Five on that one.
No, we'll get her nails.
Oh, and I love you. I love it so much. I live
my mother used to do this as she saw me drive away on the school bus every day. I still know.
Absolutely. I love it. I
All
love
right.
it. All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.